Hey guys, welcome to Mad Scientist BBQ. I'm Jeremy Yoder, and today we're going to talk about the pros and cons of pellet smokers. For any of you who've been watching the channel for a long time, you guys know that I'm a stick burner guy. I like offset smokers, I like to build a fire, all that stuff. But I realize that most of my viewers probably have a pellet smoker at home. And so what I've been doing lately is trying to work on methods for pellet smokers to make a great brisket, a great pork butt, the best possible rack of ribs. And those videos are coming out soon. But I wanted to give you guys something to think about if your next purchase is going to be a pellet smoker. What you should consider, maybe a pellet smoker is right for you, maybe it's not. Let's begin by talking about the pros. The first one is that they are easy to use. You don't have to learn a bunch of stuff about fire management in order to be able to cook something on here. You hit the power button, you select the temperature, and it does everything else for you. So if you're somebody who wants to get your toes wet with barbecue, but a big offset smoker might be intimidating, a pellet smoker is a great choice. Now, people ask me all the time, I want a smoker, but I'm working 60 hours a week. I don't know when I would have time for it, et cetera, et cetera. Most of the time, what I actually recommend for people is to buy a pellet smoker, because that way they can have barbecue, but it's really not that big of a barrier to entry. Because pellet smokers are so easy to use, it's great for beginners. It's great for anyone who wants to try out barbecue, and then you can see, do I really enjoy this? And if you do, then you might want to move on to something different later down the line. But overall, it's a great choice for somebody who wants to get started. The next pro is very similar to the first. They are crazy convenient smokers, pellet smokers that is. The one behind me right here has a Wi-Fi module, so you can connect to it through the app, and you could be at work controlling the thing. The other pellet smoker I have, same thing. It's something that you could set up in the morning before you leave for work, put a brisket on here, and guess what? By the time you get home for dinner, it could be done, because it'll tell you the temperature of the brisket inside, it'll tell you the temperature of the smoker, you can alter the temperature of the smoker, you can do whatever you want from an app in your phone. It is crazy convenient. Also, you don't need to have a huge wood pile, with 4 cords of wood at all times, so you have some seasoning and some that's ready to go. It's just a very convenient way to do barbecue. I want to thank today's sponsor, Upside. If you're someone who buys gas, groceries, or goes out to restaurants to eat, Upside is an incredible app that's going to have you earning cash back, and you can have that sent to your bank account, to your PayPal account, an e-gift card. It's tremendous. Now, I just drove from Los Angeles to Kentucky with a 1,000-gallon smoker, and let me tell you, gas is not cheap. And I just drove my 500-gallon smoker up to Michigan, and guess what? Gas was still not cheap. Inflation, it's a big deal. Increasing gas prices are a big deal. The increase in grocery prices, everything seems to be more expensive. And so every opportunity you have to earn cash back is gonna help you out. To use the app couldn't really be any easier. You click on it, it opens up, and guess what? I have 50 offers near me. So if I wanna buy groceries, gas, or go out to eat, it's got something for me here. I know what you're thinking. This app sounds too good to be true, but I know from personal experience that it's not. And Upside users are earning more than $1 million a week. It's probably why it has a 4.8 star rating on the App Store. To get started, it's really easy. Just download the free Upside app from the App Store or Google Play and use my promo code MSBBQ to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. It really is that simple. You can start earning cash back on things you were already going to buy. The next great thing about pellet smokers is that they are readily available. If I go to Costco, guess what I see inside? I see some ceramic cookers, I see some charcoal grills, I see some gas grills, but I also see pellet smokers. But you know what I don't see? Offset smokers. Also, when I go to Cabela's, I walk inside, I see charcoal grills, I see master-built gravity-fed smokers, I see electric smokers, I see all kinds of stuff. I see a number of different pellet smokers from, I think it's Pit Boss that they have, and they have their own brand, they have Traeger, they have a bunch of stuff there, but I don't see any offset smokers. For most people, there's a store near you where you can walk inside and get a decent pellet smoker and start barbecuing. When it comes to offset smokers, that's really not the case. The next thing that I really appreciate about pellet smokers is that there are so many different varieties of pellets you can get all across the country. With wood splits, it's not that way. It's just whatever happens to be local to you. So what I have on hand right now is I have a bunch of hickory and I have a bunch of white oak, and that's it. I wish I had pecan, but I can't find any pecan anywhere around me. I wish I could get some cherry, but I don't know where there's any cherry nearby. Whereas with pellets, you can go to a store and say, you know what, I want some char cherry, or I want some char hickory, or I want some lumberjack oak pellets, or I want, my favorite are the knotty wood pellets, I want some knotty wood almond and knotty wood plum. It's a different thing because it's so available. They ship it all across the country. So what I do is when I need more pellets, I'll go to Home Depot, I'll order some knotty wood pellets, boom, it shows up at my door, easy. And if I want different pellets, like the lumberjack pellets I think are also great, I can order those as well. The variety of what you get is unmatched by wood splits. So Wood splits, whatever's local to you, is what you're stuck with. With wood pellets, that's not the case. You can tailor the pellet to your own flavor profile. So if you really like hickory pellets, guess what? Use hickory pellets. If you really love pecan, you can use pecan. If you love alder, you can use alder. If you love oak, you can use oak, etc., etc., etc. The variety is unmatched by any other wood source. The final thing that pellet smokers offer that I want to address here is that they have precise temperature control. So if you have an offset smoker, you're going to have temperature swings. A lot of people talk about, oh, well, I do plus or minus 5 degrees. On anything smaller than a 1,000-gallon smoker, I've never gotten that consistent. On a 500-gallon smoker, I might be plus or minus 10 degrees if I'm paying careful attention. But on a backyard smoker, if I'm plus or minus 20, that's okay. So if I'm shooting for 250 and I never got hotter than 270 and I never got cooler than 230, that was a good day. With pellet smokers like the one behind me right here, this Pits and Spits, you can be plus or minus 2 degrees all day long. You could have a 20-hour cook and never vary more than 2 degrees from what your target temperature is. So that takes that variable out of the equation. So you don't have to worry about temperature swings. You don't have to worry about if you get a spike, did you burn something? It's gonna keep consistent throughout the entire cook. So that if you have stuff that dries out and maybe gets too hot, you know, oh, all I have to do is dial down the temperature for next time. And it makes it easier to get on the path of the kind of barbecue you wanna start creating. Those are the pros that I think about when I think about pellet smokers, and they're pretty strong. We're gonna move on to the cons at this point. But I want to preface this with, I said in the beginning, I'm an offset smoker fan. I'm going to try to be as unbiased as possible, but I want to give you an accurate representation of my opinions on the cons of pellet smokers. The first con I want to address is limited size. So most pellet smokers really can't do a whole lot of food. This one behind me here can do quite a bit for a pellet smoker. Now this isn't counting, humongous commercial pellet smokers. I've seen some that are kind of on a trailer. They're really not for backyard barbecue, but this one can hold quite a bit of food. So I'm going to open it up, and you're going to see how much space this one has. This is one of the reasons I got this, because I was very impressed with the amount of space, but this is kind of the top-end limit of how much food you can cook on a pellet smoker. So this thing has 3 levels, and really for barbecue, I only like to cook on a second shelf or a third shelf. So you could probably get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 briskets in there, and they would have the right cooking characteristics. And that's really, really good. How many people are going to need to cook more than 6 briskets for a traditional gathering? Probably not many. But this thing is pretty expensive. It's probably not the entry-level pellet smoker. So when we're talking about entry-level pellet smokers, we're talking about limited size. The next con is probably the one that I'm going to get the most pushback on. But it's my honest opinion, so I'm going to share it with you anyway. I think with pellet smokers, you have limited flavor. I don't think you get as strong a smoke flavor as you do with burning wood splits. There are a number of different reasons behind this. I've made videos about this in the past. I think a couple of the reasons are, really briefly, because pellets are so dry, they're 5% moisture or less, and they're so small, they tend to burn extremely clean, so clean that you don't get the full richness of smoke flavor that you get by burning wood logs. And I've said it, 100 times, there's no replacement for a real fire. But this is about as close as you can get. With all that being said, I think that pellet smokers inherently don't produce as much flavor, but you have a lot of control over that by choosing different pellets. So you can get the kind of bark and flavor that you want out of your pellet smoker by choosing the right pellets. Now, the first time I used a pellet smoker, I was using cheap pellets that I got at a local hardware store, and it was kind of flavorless, didn't really produce bark, didn't really like it. Then I moved on to some premium pellets, and the difference was night and day. Do I think it was as good as an offset smoker? Probably not, but it's a lot closer than using cheap pellets that just kind of produce heat. You might as well put it in your oven if you're not going to get the smoke flavor. That's the whole reason you're barbecuing in the first place. So that's a con, and for me, a big one, but you can mitigate that by choosing the right pellets. Now, on to the next one. Con number 3, pellet smokers do one thing well. You could look at this as kind of a pro and kind of a con, but I view it as a con for most people, because most people don't have a half dozen grills in their driveway and then another half dozen in their backyard. Okay, that's not most people. So for me, I don't mind if something does only one thing super well, because then I can use it for that one thing and I'll use a different piece of equipment for something else. So pellet smokers do low and slow very well. But when it comes to grilling, a lot of them have grilling attachments, and you might have a trap door, you can use it to sear stuff. But really, if I'm going to sear something, I might as well get a cheap charcoal grill, and I can smoke it on here and then use that charcoal grill to reverse sear it if that's what I'm after. So they do one thing well, but if you're going to want something that does everything, you might want to go a different way. So you might want to go with something like a Kamado Joe, which can do low and slow and sear at extremely high heat. So it doesn't do either of them perfectly, but it's pretty strong in both areas. Regarding the last point, there's one thing I'm going to show you at the end of this video that doesn't actually hold true, but it's kind of something new that I haven't really tested a ton yet, but I want to show it to you as something you might consider in the future. The next con is something that is definitely a con for me, but might not be a con for everyone. So earlier we said that one of the pros is it's extremely convenient, but the reverse side of that coin is that you're far less involved. So for me, because I love to tinker, because I love to be involved in every aspect of the barbecue that I'm creating, I want to manage the fire. I want to go check on it. I want to make sure it's burning the way I want to. I want to make sure that it's producing the kind of smoke that I want it to. I want to be involved in every aspect so that at the end of it, if it turns out awesome, I'm like, yes, I nailed it. Or if it turns out poorly, and say, I really messed that up. But if you want something consistent where you don't have, big failures and huge successes, but you want something kind of more steady state, a pellet smoker is a good choice. But for me, the lack of involvement is a real bummer because part of what I love about barbecue is doing the process. And if you take away portions of that process from me, I don't enjoy it as much. As someone who's eaten a ton of barbecue, at this point, when I'm cooking, it's mainly about the process rather than eating the food at the end. The food at the end is always great, but, well, sometimes it's not great. Sometimes I mess things up. But eating at the end is always the payoff, but the process is really where I spend most of my time and get most of my enjoyment. The last con is that this, being a piece of technology, is subject to failure. The auger can stop. Maybe the power goes out. Say you have a fire that gets into the hopper. There are all kinds of things that can go wrong. Basically, the more money you spend on your pellet smoker, the less likely that is to happen. The last pellet smoker I had here was a Traeger, and I kept having problems with it. It would just shut off. It would clog up. It didn't want to run the way I wanted to, so I gave it away, and I got something that I knew would work well. This one, I've had no problems with. It just functions exactly the way I want. But for a lot of people out there, they repeatedly have problems with their pellet smokers not working. If you have an offset smoker or a charcoal grill or something like that, because it's so low tech, there are far fewer points where it can fail. My offset smokers, there's a place where I build the fire, and there's a cook chamber. What can really go wrong in terms of its performance? Now, if it's really windy, it can you have to fight against it. If it's rainy, that's kind of a pain. You have to be out here in the rain. But in terms of technologically, what can break down? Really not much. Those offset smokers, being a 1/4 inch thick or thicker, are going to last for a lifetime. You can hand these down to your grandchildren, and guess what? They're going to work exactly the same way. With pellet smokers, I have a feeling that it's not quite the same. And no, my preference for low tech has nothing to do with the fact that I was born Amish, or at least I don't think so. But I get the enjoyment out of the low tech stuff more than I do out of high tech stuff that could potentially fail. Okay, I promised that I would show you something really cool that kind of goes along with it does one thing. There's a pellet grill that I now have that definitely does more than just one thing, so I want to show it to you. In that one case, it definitely does multiple things and it does them well. So let's go check that out and then you can make your own decision from there. Okay, this is the Camp Chef Apex pellet grill, gas grill hybrid. Here's a pellet smoker that doesn't do just one thing well, because it's got all these gas burners. It's got a flat top here with a really powerful burner underneath. In my most recent video, I got to use one of these in Utah and I was super impressed. So I got one and I haven't used it yet. I just set it up. But one thing you guys can do to help me is let me know what you want to see me cook on this in the future, because I want to put this thing through its paces and see really how it does. So far, I've been super impressed. So if you want to see it, it's pretty big. And the gas grill portion works better than my old gas grill, so that guy's gone. And so this is going to be my replacement gas grill. So if I want to quickly grill up some chicken for dinner, boom, throw it on the gas grill, done. If I want to have something super convenient, I can use this as a smoker. And then also, the thing that I'm most excited about is this burner on the side. The old gas grill had a really junky, really weak burner. This thing will get nuclear hot super fast. You can use either the flat top, if you want to do smash burgers or something like that, or you can put a pan on it and remove this, and you can use the pan. So if you have a favorite pan for searing steaks, you can absolutely do that. And the benefit is you're doing it outside, and you don't have to worry about smoking up the kitchen while you're searing a steak. And then finally, you don't have to worry about lighting a bunch of charcoal and putting it over charcoal. You can control the heat. It's just a really great setup. So I wanted to show you guys this. If you're in the market for a pellet smoker, this might be the right one for you. It might not be. And then the other reason I was super excited about this is I have a lot of people who know me, in regular life, and they say, hey, I'm thinking about getting a grill, but I want it to be able to barbecue, but I want to use it as a grill too. And I say, well, you can't really have it both ways. I mean, you can get a Kamado, but they're like, but I want to be able to cook for the whole family, and I don't have a lot of space on the Kamado. But with this, you can actually use it as a grill, and it works great. It's just a propane grill. Or you can use it as a smoker, and it's a pellet smoker, and you can use it for low and slow. And this one also has Wi-Fi, so you can be at work smoking a brisket. You could come home, you could, fry some eggs if you want brisket and eggs or something. It just does a lot of stuff. So I'm really excited to use it. Let me know what you want to see me cook on it, and I'll do my best to get videos out so you guys can see this thing in action. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this was helpful to you if you're in the market to buy a pellet smoker. If it did help you, please hit the like button down below and subscribe to the channel for more fun and informative barbecue content. You guys can find me on Patreon, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere at Mad Scientist BBQ. I'll see you guys next time.